Jinho stared at his screen for the third time that night. The numbers didn't lie. Something was out there watching them. He sat in the observation deck on Ganymede, one of Jupiter's moons. The room was cold and quiet. Only the soft hum of computers broke the silence. Outside the window, Jupiter's massive form filled half the sky, its storm swirling in endless patterns. The screen showed gravitational readings from deep space. Small distortions, tiny ripples in space-time that shouldn't be there. Jinho had been tracking them for 8 months now. They appeared, disappeared, and moved in ways that natural objects never did. Still looking at ghosts? Minji asked, walking into the room with 2 cups of coffee. She was the night shift supervisor and had known Jinho for 5 years. "They're not ghosts," Jinho said, taking the coffee gratefully. "Something is out there. Something that doesn't want us to see it." Minji looked at the data and frowned. She was a good officer and trusted Jinho's instincts. "Have you reported this up the chain?" "Every week for the past 8 months, Jinho said. "They know. Everyone knows. That was the strange part." Command wasn't surprised by his reports. They just filed them away and told him to keep watching. It was like they expected this. Across the solar system on Earth, in a secure building in Geneva, Sohee was having a very different kind of night. She stood before a room full of diplomats and military officers. The walls were covered with screens showing star maps and strange symbols. "Language pattern 73, Sohee said, pointing to one screen. "If the visitors use quantum-based communication, this is how we should respond. We've practiced this scenario for 15 years. An older diplomat raised his hand. "Do we really think they'll be hostile?" Sohee looked at him carefully. She had spent her whole career preparing for this moment. "We must prepare for every possibility. First contact is the most dangerous moment in any civilization's history. We get one chance to make the right impression." The room fell silent. Everyone there knew the truth that the rest of humanity didn't know yet. They weren't preparing for first contact. They were preparing for war. Admiral Deho sat in his office at Strategic Command deep under the Himalayas. His desk was clean except for one folder marked Project Horizon, Eyes Only. He had read it so many times he could recite it from memory. 40 years ago, humanity had detected something impossible. Surveillance probes using technology that shouldn't exist. At first they thought it was a mistake. Then they found more. And more. Someone was watching Earth. Someone with technology far beyond humanity's capabilities. That discovery had changed everything. The old wars ended almost overnight. Nations that had fought for centuries suddenly found common ground. If aliens existed and if they were watching Earth, humanity needed to be ready. Deho remembered those early days. He had been a young officer during the resource wars, fighting over water and minerals. Then the governments called a secret meeting. They showed the evidence. They proposed the unthinkable total global unity, all military forces combined, all research shared. Every resource directed toward one goal, survival. It had worked better than anyone expected. Humans were good at coming together when facing a common threat. The species that had fought itself for thousands of years finally united, but unity wasn't enough. They needed an edge. Deho opened his computer and sent a secure message to the Kuiper Belt far beyond Pluto. "Status report on horizon?" The reply came back 3 hours later, delayed by distance. It was from Yuna, the head scientist of humanity's most secret project. Generators at 97%. "We're ready." Deho allowed himself a small smile. 40 years of preparation. 40 years of humanity's best minds working on a problem that seemed impossible, and they had solved it. Whatever was watching them would be in for a surprise. Far beyond the solar system, in a space station orbiting a blue giant star, the Galactic Council was meeting. 17 species gathered in the Great Chamber, their forms ranging from insect-like to crystalline, to things that existed partially in other dimensions. War Master Velkathos addressed the assembly. His species looked like tall armored reptiles with 6 limbs. The humans have reached their neighbor planets. Soon they will develop faster than light travel. We must act now. A crystalline being pulsed with light. The translation came through speakers. They are still primitive. Why the concern? Velkathos displayed images on the central screen. Earth's history played out in fast forward. Wars, weapons, endless conflict. Look at their history. They have been killing each other since they discovered fire. They are the most violent species we have ever observed. That makes them dangerous, another council member said. Exactly, Velkathos agreed. We have seen species like this before. If we let them reach the stars with their current mindset, they will become a threat to the entire galaxy. We must contain them now while we still can. The council debated for hours. Some argued for patience. Others wanted immediate action. But in the end, fear won. The vote was taken. 15 species voted to intervene. Only 2 voted against. We will offer them a choice, the council leader announced. They can join us willingly, accept our guidance, and submit to genetic monitoring to reduce their aggressive tendencies. Or we will force compliance. They will refuse, Velkathos said confidently. Humans don't submit easily. We've studied them. Then we will show them the cost of defiance, the council leader said. Prepare the fleet. 300 ships should be sufficient. The order went out. Across council space, warships began to gather. They would teach humanity its place in the galactic order. Back on Ganymede, Jinho watched as new signals appeared on his screen. These weren't the subtle ones he had been tracking. These were massive. Hundreds of ships not even trying to hide anymore. His hands shook as he typed the alert code. Red lights began flashing throughout the facility. Contact, he said into his communicator. Multiple large objects entering the outer system. They're not hiding anymore. On Earth, alarms sounded in every military command center. So he received the alert on her tablet and took a deep breath. All those years of preparation were about to be tested. Admiral Daiho stood and put on his uniform jacket. He sent one message to every military base on Earth and throughout the solar system. Protocol Endgame is active. All forces to battle stations. Show them what humanity has prepared. In the Kuiper Belt, Yuna looked at her team of scientists. Power up the generators and activate the outer ring. Throughout the asteroid belt on moons and hidden stations, weapons that had waited silently for 40 years came to life. Humanity had known this day would come. They had prepared. They had planned. They had built weapons that shouldn't be possible. The Galactic Council thought they were about to discipline a primitive species. They thought this would be easy. They were wrong. Jinho watched the alien fleet cross Neptune's orbit. They were moving slowly, confidently. They thought they had already won. He pressed the button that would change everything. Outer ring, he said calmly. You are free to engage. In the cold darkness beyond Neptune, thousands of hidden weapons platforms activated. They had waited 40 years for this moment. The war was about to begin, and humanity was ready. So he stood in the communications center in Geneva, surrounded by screens showing the alien fleet. 300 warships, each one bigger than anything humanity had ever built. They moved through space like a pack of predators. The message came through on all frequencies. The translation software worked quickly, turning alien sounds into words she could understand. Humans of Earth, the message began. We are the Galactic Council. We have watched your species for many years. You are violent. You are dangerous. You must accept our guidance. So he listened to the entire message. They wanted humanity to surrender all weapons. They wanted to change human DNA to make them less aggressive. They wanted complete control over Earth's future. She looked at the military officers around her. Admiral Daiho stood nearby, his face calm. He nodded once, so he activated the transmitter. Her response would be heard across the galaxy. People of the Galactic Council, she said, her voice steady and clear. We thank you for your message. We understand your concerns. However, humanity chooses to remain free. We suggest you return to your space. This is your only warning. She ended the transmission. The room was silent. They won't listen, one diplomat said nervously. I know, so he replied. But we had to give them the chance. On the lead council ship, War Master Velkathos listened to the human response. He made a sound that translators rendered as laughter. They warn us, he said to his officers. These primitives who barely left their planet warn the Galactic Council? How amusing. He turned to his tactical officer. Begin the advance. Target their outer installations first. Show them what real power looks like. The fleet moved forward, passing Neptune. Their sensors detected some structures on Neptune's moons, but nothing that worried them. A few mining stations. Some research posts. Nothing that could threaten 300 warships. They were wrong. On Ganymede, Jinho watched the enemy fleet on his screens. They were entering the kill zone. The outer ring had waited 40 years for this. Distance to optimal firing range? He asked. 3 minutes, Minji responded. She was at the weapons console now, her hands ready on the controls. All platforms report ready, another officer called out. Jinho counted down the seconds. He thought about all the work that went into this moment. 40 years of mining asteroids, 40 years of hiding weapons in the ice, 40 years of preparation that the rest of humanity didn't even know about. Range optimal, Minji announced. Fire, Jinho said. Across the outer system, thousands of weapons platforms activated. They had been built into asteroids hidden in ice, disguised as natural objects. Each platform contained technology that shouldn't exist. The weapons fired, beams of directed energy, using quantum tunneling effects that the Council thought were impossible, lanced out across space. They moved at the speed of light. The Council fleet had no warning. The first 30 ships simply vanished. Their shields, designed to stop conventional weapons, were useless against weapons that tunneled through normal space. The energy beams appeared inside the ships, tearing them apart from within. On Velkathos' ship, alarm screamed. His tactical officers stared at the screens in disbelief. 30 ships destroyed. No warning! How is this possible? Return fire, Velkathos shouted. Find those weapons. But the platforms were too well hidden, and they weren't finished. The second wave came 30 seconds later. These weren't energy beams. These were hunter-killer drones, each one the size of a human fist. They appeared from nowhere, using micro-wormholes to fold space. The drones moved faster than anything the Council had seen. They appeared inside the fleet's defensive formations, targeting engines and weapons systems. Each drone carried a fusion charge. 20 more ships died in explosions of nuclear fire. Retreat, Velkathos ordered. Back to Saturn's orbit. The Council fleet turned and ran. They left 50 burning wrecks behind them. In Geneva, the command center erupted in cheers. Officers hugged each other. Some cried with relief. Admiral Deho raised his hand for silence. We bloodied their nose. But this is just the beginning. They'll call for reinforcements now. More ships. Better weapons. We need to be ready for round 2. So he nodded. She was already preparing the next message to send to the Council. Humanity needed to show strength, but also leave room for peace. The goal wasn't to destroy the Council. The goal was to make them respect humanity. On the Council fleet's command ship, Velkathos stared at the tactical display. 50 ships gone in 10 minutes. 50 ships destroyed by a species that was supposed to be primitive. How? He asked his science officer. How do they have this technology? The science officer examined the data from their sensors. These weapons use quantum effects we thought were theoretical. The energy beams tunnel through normal space. The drones fold space-time to move. This technology is centuries beyond what we expected. Then our intelligence was wrong, Velkathos said. Very wrong. He opened a communication channel to the Council homeworlds. This is War Master Velkathos. The humans are not what we thought. They have advanced weapons. I request immediate reinforcements. Send the Grand Fleet. The response came back hours later. The Council was shocked. They were also angry. How dare these humans fight back? How dare they kill Council warriors? The message was clear. The Grand Fleet was authorized. 2,000 warships would come to the Sol system. They would overwhelm humanity with numbers. They would capture Earth and discover how the humans built such weapons, and they would make an example of humanity. That would echo across the galaxy. Admiral Deho received the intelligence report 3 days later. Human agents in Council space had intercepted the communications. 2,000 ships were coming. He called a meeting of Earth's leadership. So he attended via video link. Yuna came in from the Kuiper Belt Research Station. 2,000 ships, Deho said. We have 400 combat vessels. Our outer defenses hurt them, but they won't fall for the same trick twice. Can we win? The Earth President asked. Deho looked at Yuna. She was quiet for a moment, then nodded. We can win, Yuna said, but we need to use everything we have, including Project Horizon. That was supposed to be a last resort, so he said. This might be our last resort, Yuna replied. 2,000 ships is more than we planned for. If we don't use every advantage, we'll lose. The president looked around the room. What exactly does Project Horizon do? Yuna smiled. It changes the rules of the game completely. Deho stood and walked to the star map on the wall. We can't fight them in open space. We'll use the asteroid belt. Turn the whole thing into a weapon. We'll use hit-and-run tactics. And when they're weak enough, we'll activate Horizon. And then? The president asked. Then we show them that humanity doesn't just prepare for war, Deho said. We win it. Back in space, Jinho was preparing for the next battle. The outer ring had done its job, but many platforms were destroyed in the counterattack. The council knew about them now. The next fight would be harder. He looked at the incoming intelligence reports. 2,000 ships. It seemed impossible. But Jinho remembered something his grandfather told him once. Humans had always faced impossible odds. They had survived ice ages and plagues and wars. They survived because they adapted. They learned. They prepared. The council was about to learn that lesson the hard way. The Grand Fleet would arrive in 2 weeks. Humanity would be ready. The Grand Fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel at the edge of the solar system. 2,000 warships, the largest military force the Council had assembled in 3 centuries. War Master Velcathos stood on the bridge of his flagship, determined not to underestimate the humans again. Full sensor sweeps, he ordered. I want every asteroid, every moon, every piece of debris tracked. The humans hide their weapons well. We will not be surprised this time. The fleet moved forward in tight formation. They kept their shields at maximum power. Their weapons were armed and ready. This time they would be careful. On Ganymede, Jinho watched the fleet approach. He was tired. Everyone was tired. The past 2 weeks had been spent preparing the asteroid belt for what came next. They're moving slowly, Minji observed. Being cautious? Good, Jinho said. Caution will make them predictable. He activated the secure channel to Admiral Deho on Earth. They're entering the belt now. Beginning Phase 1. Acknowledged, Deho's voice came back. Good luck. The Council fleet entered the asteroid belt carefully. Their sensors detected millions of rocks from pebbles to mountains. It was the perfect place for an ambush, but they were ready. Or so they thought. The first sign something was wrong came when an asteroid changed course. A rock 3 kilometers wide suddenly fired engines and moved directly toward the fleet. Destroy it, Velcathos ordered. The fleet's weapons fired, turning the asteroid into dust. But then another asteroid moved. And another. And another. Within minutes, thousands of asteroids were moving. The entire belt came alive. Taman sat in the tactical center on Mars, controlling the chaos. He was Deho's chief of operations and the mastermind behind what they called the Labyrinth Protocol. For 40 years, humanity had been hollowing out asteroids and fitting them with engines. Thousands of them. Now they all moved at once, following complex patterns that Taman had programmed. The asteroid belt became a maze, a deadly moving maze. The Council fleet tried to maintain formation, but it was impossible. They had to split up to navigate through the moving rocks. Their tight defensive formation broke apart. This is insane, Velcathos said, watching his fleet scatter across the belt. How did they move so many asteroids? His science officer had no answer. The amount of work required was staggering. It would take centuries to do this, but the humans had done it. Then the asteroids started exploding. Each hollowed asteroid had a fusion core. When Council ships got close, the cores overloaded. The explosions weren't random. They were calculated to push ships toward certain areas, kill zones. Hidden throughout the belt, Yuna's quantum weapons platforms waited. As Council ships were channeled into these zones by the exploding asteroids, the platforms fired. Ships died by the dozens. The Grand Fleet was being torn apart not by a superior force, but by the environment itself. The humans had turned the asteroid belt into a weapon. Pull back, Velcathos ordered. Get out of the belt. But it was too late. The human fleet appeared. Admiral Deho stood on the bridge of the flagship Sol, watching the tactical display. 400 human ships against 2,000 Council ships sounded like suicide, but the Council fleet was scattered, disorganized, and trapped in the belt. All ships, Deho said calmly. Attack pattern Omega. Target their command vessels. The human fleet struck like wolves. They didn't fight with honor or formation. They used the asteroids as cover, appearing suddenly to strike at Council ships, then vanishing before the enemy could respond. Human ships were smaller than Council ships, faster, and they were designed for one purpose: killing other ships as efficiently as possible. Captain Minji commanded the destroyer Guangzhou. Her ship dove through the asteroid field at speeds that terrified her crew. But she had trained for this. They all had. Council cruiser at bearing 270, her tactical officer called out. I see it, Minji said. Weapons target their engines. Helm, get us close. The Guangzhou slipped behind a large asteroid, then burst out at full speed. The Council cruiser, 3 times their size, didn't see them until it was too late. Railguns fired. Missiles launched. The cruiser's engines exploded. It drifted helplessly as the Guangzhou disappeared back into the asteroid field. This scene repeated across the belt. Human ships struck and vanished. Struck and vanished. The Council couldn't land a solid hit. Their larger ships were too slow in the maze of moving asteroids. After 6 hours of fighting, the Council had lost 300 ships. The humans had lost only 15. Velkathos finally pulled his fleet out of the asteroid belt. They retreated to Jupiter's orbit, battered and confused. This was supposed to be an overwhelming victory. Instead, it was turning into a disaster. Casualties? He asked. 300 ships destroyed. 400 damaged. We need repairs. Velkathos slammed his fist on the console. How are these primitives doing this? Back on Earth, Sohi was broadcasting messages to the Council. Not threats, not demands, just simple images. Images of Council prisoners being treated well, being given food and medical care. Images of human soldiers helping wounded aliens. We don't want to kill you, her message said. We just want to be free. Stop attacking us and this war ends. But the Council couldn't stop. Their pride was wounded. Their reputation was at stake. If they retreated now, other species might rebel against their authority. The Council leadership sent a message to Velkathos. You are authorized to use extreme measures. And this quickly. Extreme measures meant weapons the Council had banned centuries ago. Weapons too destructive, too terrible to use in normal warfare. Antimatter lances, planet-killing weapons. Velkathos didn't want to use them, but he had his orders. He targeted Mars, humanity's second-largest colony. 3 million humans lived there. Charge the antimatter lance, he ordered quietly. Target Mars. If they won't surrender, we'll show them the cost of defiance. On Mars, alarms sounded in every dome and settlement. People rushed to emergency shelters. They had drilled for this, but no one really believed it would happen. Taman watched the Council ship charging its weapon. The antimatter lance would crack Mars's crust. It would kill millions. He sent an urgent message to the Kuiper Belt. Yuna, they're using the lance. We need Horizon now. Yuna looked at her team. They were all scared. Project Horizon was experimental. They had tested it in simulations, but never at full power. Never for real. Power up the generators, she ordered. Full field. Cover the entire system. Deep in the Kuiper Belt, massive generators spun to life. They had been built in secret over 40 years. Each one was the size of a city. There were dozens of them. They created a field that covered the entire solar system. A field that did something impossible. It changed the laws of physics, not everywhere. Not permanently, but enough. On Velkathos' ship, the antimatter lance finished charging. The weapon officer pressed the firing button. Nothing happened. Fire the weapon, Velkathos shouted. I am, sir, but it's not responding. The antimatter containment is stable. Too stable. It won't release. Velkathos stared at the weapon display. The antimatter was still contained, but the weapon couldn't fire. It was like the laws of physics had changed. Then his science officer spoke, his voice filled with fear. Sir, our faster-than-light drives just went offline. Our particle beams are operating at reduced power. It's like someone is changing the fundamental constants of reality. Velkathos felt cold fear in his chest. What kind of technology can do that? He had no answer. No one did. On Earth, Admiral Deho received the confirmation from Yuna. Horizon field is active. Their advanced weapons are neutralized. Deho smiled grimly. 40 years ago, humanity's best scientists had asked a simple question. What if you could change the rules of the game itself? They had found a way to manipulate the fabric of space-time. Within the field, certain technologies simply didn't work. Antimatter weapons, FTL drives, high-energy particle beams. All neutralized. All ships, Deho broadcast. The enemy is vulnerable. Begin the hunt. The Council fleet was trapped. Their faster-than-light drives didn't work. They couldn't escape. Their most powerful weapons were useless. And the human fleet was hunting them. Velkathos understood military tactics. He knew when a battle was lost. But the Council wouldn't let him retreat. They demanded victory at any cost. All ships defensive formation, he ordered. Use conventional weapons only. We still outnumber them, it was true. Even without their advanced technology, the Council still had over 1,600 ships. The humans only had 400, but numbers weren't everything. Captain Minji brought the Guangzhou around Jupiter's moon Io. 3 Council ships were trying to regroup near the moon's orbit. They looked damaged and confused. Target the lead ship, Minji ordered. Railguns and missiles. Hit them hard. The Guangzhou opened fire. Without shields, the Council ship's armor meant nothing. Railgun rounds punched through the hull. Missiles found weak points and exploded inside the ship. They're returning fire, her tactical officer warned. Evasive, Minji said calmly. She had been flying combat missions for 15 years. This was what she trained for. The Guangzhou danced through space, avoiding enemy fire. The Council ships were bigger but slower. They couldn't keep up with the human vessel's movements. Second ship disabled, the tactical officer reported. Third ship is trying to run. Let them go, Minji said. We want survivors. This was Admiral Deho's strategy. Don't destroy everything. Disable ships. Take prisoners. Show mercy when possible. It was psychological warfare. The Council expected humans to be monsters. Deho wanted to prove them wrong. Across the solar system, the same scene repeated. Human ships hunted Council vessels. They disabled rather than destroyed. They captured rather than killed. Hyunwoo led a Marine boarding team onto a Council command ship. His team of 30 Marines entered through a hull breach, weapons ready. They expected a fight. Instead, they found terrified aliens huddled in corridors. Don't shoot, one alien said through a translator. We surrender. Hyunwoo lowered his weapon. His team did the same. You're prisoners of war, he said. You'll be treated according to military law. Anyone who needs medical attention, step forward. The aliens stared at him. They expected torture, execution. Instead, human medics began treating their wounded. One alien, a crystalline being with several cracks in its body, spoke to Hyunwoo. Why are you helping us? We came to destroy you, Hyunwoo shrugged. You're not our enemy. Your leaders are. You're just soldiers following orders. We understand that. He helped the crystalline being to the medical area. The alien would survive thanks to human doctors. This was happening on dozens of captured ships. Council soldiers expected the worst. Instead, they received food, medical care, and respect. So he made sure images of these captures were broadcast across the galaxy. She wanted every species in Council space to see the truth. Humans aren't monsters, her broadcasts said. We fight when we must, but we show mercy when we can. This war doesn't have to continue. The message was powerful. Throughout Council space, subject species began to question their leaders. If humans could show mercy to their enemies, why couldn't the Council? But the Council leadership wasn't interested in mercy. They were terrified. If humanity won this war, it would shatter the Council's authority. Other species might rebel. The entire galactic order could collapse. They sent another message to Velkathos. Use every weapon you have. Sacrifice as many ships as necessary. Win this war or don't come home. Velkathos read the message and felt sick. His warriors were dying. His fleet was being destroyed, and the Council demanded more sacrifice. He made a decision that would change everything. Open a private channel to the human fleet, he told his communications officer. I want to speak with Admiral Deho directly. On the Sol, Deho was surprised to receive the call. He accepted it. Velkathos appeared on the screen. He looked tired and defeated. Admiral Deho, I am War Master Velkathos. I am requesting a temporary ceasefire to discuss terms. Deho studied the alien commander. Go on. My government demands I continue fighting until you surrender, but I am a warrior, not a fool. I have lost half my fleet. You have technology we cannot counter. Continuing this war will only lead to more death. Then surrender, Deho said. I cannot. The Council would execute me and everyone in my fleet for cowardice. They would send another fleet. And another. They will not stop until you are defeated or they have no ships left. Deho leaned back in his chair. What are you proposing? A ceasefire while I speak with the Council leadership. Let me show them that humanity is not what they thought. Give me proof that you are willing to negotiate, not just destroy. Deho thought carefully. This could be a trap. But Velkathos seemed genuine. 24 hours, Deho said. No attacks from either side. Use that time to talk to your leaders. But understand this. If they refuse to negotiate, we will end this war by force. Understood. Velkathos said. The ceasefire began. For the first time in weeks, no one died in the Sol system. Velkathos called an emergency session of the Galactic Council. 17 species appeared on his screens, angry and demanding. "Why have you stopped fighting?" the council leader demanded. "Because we cannot win," Velkathos said bluntly. "The humans have technology beyond anything we imagined. They can control fundamental physics. They can disable our weapons while theirs still function. And they outnumber us now in operational ships, and impossible. We sent 2,000 ships, and we have 900 left. They have over 350. They are winning." The council chamber erupted in argument. Some species wanted to continue fighting. Others called for peace. And one species, the Nethrim, spoke up with a surprising question. "Why did we attack them in the first place?" the Nethrim representative asked. "What actual threat did they pose?" An uncomfortable silence fell. "They are violent," the council leader said. Our studies were wrong," Velkathos interrupted. "I have seen how they treat prisoners. They show mercy. They offer medical care. They don't torture or execute. They fight fiercely, yes, but they are not the monsters we described." Jinho, working with intelligence teams on Ganymede, made a discovery that changed everything. He was analyzing the original surveillance data that marked humanity as dangerous. "Something's wrong here," he told Minji. "Look at these reports. They've been altered. Someone changed the data to make us look more violent than we actually are." He dug deeper, tracing the data back through council networks. What he found shocked him. "The data was falsified," he said. "Someone in the council deliberately made us look dangerous to justify this war." He sent his findings to Sohei immediately. Sohei looked at the evidence with growing anger. The war had been based on lies. Millions had died because someone in the council wanted this conflict. She prepared a broadcast, not just to the council but to every species in their space. "People of the galaxy," she said, "we have discovered that the data used to justify this war was falsified. The Galactic Council lied to you. They lied to their own members. This war was never necessary." She released all the evidence. The altered data. The real surveillance records, everything. The galaxy exploded in outrage. Subject species demanded answers. Council member species turned on each other, accusing each other of conspiracy. The Nethrim called for a full investigation. The council leadership tried to contain the damage, but it was too late. The truth was out. 3 council species withdrew from the organization immediately. Others threatened to follow. The council faced a choice: continue a losing war and watch their organization collapse, or make peace with humanity and try to save what remained of their authority. In the end, survival won over pride. The council requested formal peace negotiations. 6 months after the war began, Sohei stood in a new space station that humanity had built just for this moment. The station orbited between Earth and Mars, neutral ground for the peace talks. She looked out the window at the assembled ships. Human vessels and council ships floating together without firing weapons. It seemed impossible after everything that had happened. The council delegation arrived in a small shuttle. 17 species, all looking nervous. They had reason to be. The war had cost them dearly. Not just ships and lives, but their reputation and unity. Sohei greeted them formally. "Welcome to Unity Station. Please follow me." She led them to the conference room. It was simple but comfortable. Human designers had worked hard to make it suitable for all the different species. Admiral Deho sat at the table, along with representatives from Earth's government. Across from them, the council delegates took their seats. The council leader spoke first. "We are here to discuss terms of peace." "No," Sohei said firmly. "We're here to discuss the future. The past is done. We need to talk about what comes next." She activated a display showing the evidence Jinho had found. "Your war was based on lies. Someone in your organization falsified data to make humanity look dangerous. We want to know who and why." The council delegates looked uncomfortable. Finally, one of them spoke. "It was a species called the Velthine, insect-like beings with multiple eyes." "We have conducted our investigation," the Velthine said. "The conspiracy involved 3 species leadership. They feared their civilizations were becoming obsolete. They saw humanity's rapid technological growth and became afraid. They thought if they could capture your technology through war, they could maintain their power." "Where are these conspirators now?" Daiho asked. "Arrested and awaiting trial. Their species have disowned them. The council is changing, so he nodded. That's a start. But it's not enough. The council attacked an innocent civilization. Millions died. You can't just say sorry and move on. What do you want? The council leader asked. So he looked at Deho, then back at the council. We want you to accept that humanity will never submit to your authority. We are free and will remain free. We want you to acknowledge that your surveillance of Earth was wrong, and we want reparations for the damage done to Mars and our colonies. The council leader nodded slowly. Agreed, but we have requests as well. We want to understand your technology. The field that controls physics. The weapons that shouldn't be possible. How did you develop these things? Yuna, who had been quiet until now, spoke up. Necessity. We knew someone was watching us 40 years ago. We knew we might face a threat we couldn't defeat with conventional weapons, so we developed unconventional ones. Will you share this technology? A council delegate asked hopefully. No, Yuna said bluntly. Not with the council. We don't trust you anymore. The room fell silent. Then a new voice spoke up. It was the Nethrim delegate, a being that looked almost human but with silver skin and large eyes. What if we offered an alternative? The Nethrim said. My species voted against this war. We were opposed from the start. What if we established relations with humanity outside of council authority? So he was surprised. You mean an independent alliance? Yes, my government has authorized me to propose formal diplomatic and trade relations. Equal partners, not master and subject. Other council delegates looked shocked. This was unheard of. Council species weren't supposed to make independent deals, but so he saw opportunity. We would be interested in that. Very interested. Over the next week, the negotiations continued. The peace treaty was simple. The council would acknowledge humanity's independence. They would pay reparations. They would remove all surveillance from the Sol system. In return, humanity wouldn't attack council space or share their advanced weapons with council enemies. But the more interesting negotiations happened with the Nethrim. They proposed something revolutionary, a new kind of alliance. Not based on domination, but on cooperation. Equal partners working together. Nari, a young diplomat on Sohi's team, worked directly with the Nethrim. She was brilliant at finding common ground between different species. The galaxy doesn't need another empire, Nari said during one session. It needs a new model. Species working together because they want to, not because they're forced to. The Nethrim agreed. They began drafting what would become the Coalition of Free Worlds. Admiral Deho was skeptical. This could be a trap, another way to control us. Or it could be genuine, so he countered. Not every species supported this war. Some of them are looking for an alternative to the Council's control. We can offer that. And if it fails, Deho asked, then we're still free, still strong, still able to defend ourselves. Deho thought about it, then nodded. We try it, but carefully. The peace treaty was signed on Unity Station. The war was officially over. The Council fleet left the Sol system. Their ships damaged, but their crews alive. Velkathos met with Deho one last time before leaving. You fought well, Velkathos said. I underestimated humanity. I won't make that mistake again. And we learned something too, Deho replied. Not all aliens are the same. Some of you wanted peace. We should have tried to reach them sooner. They parted as respectful opponents, if not friends. 5 years passed. Unity Station grew into a thriving hub. The Coalition of Free Worlds expanded beyond just humanity and the Nethrim. 12 species joined, all of them leaving the Council to forge their own path. The Galactic Council still existed, but it was no longer the only power in the galaxy. The Coalition offered an alternative. It was messier, more chaotic, but also more free. Jinho, now an admiral, commanded the Coalition's defense fleet. Human ships flew alongside Nethrim vessels and others. They patrolled not to conquer, but to protect members from threats. Never thought I'd be commanding aliens, Jinho said to Minji, who served as his second officer. Times change, Minji replied. We're making history. So he became Earth's ambassador to the galaxy. She traveled constantly, meeting with species from all over, building bridges. Some meetings went well, others didn't. But slowly the coalition grew. She met with a species called the Tauren, water-dwelling beings who had been oppressed by the Council for centuries. They wanted to join the coalition. Why should we trust you? The Tauren leader asked. The Council promised protection too. We're not promising protection, so he said honestly. We're offering partnership. You keep your freedom. We work together as equals. If you don't like it, you can leave any time. The Tauran thought about it, then agreed to join. Admiral Deho retired from active duty but didn't stop working. He opened a military academy on Mars, training the next generation of officers. He taught them everything he learned from the war. Be prepared, he told his students. Always be prepared. But don't let preparation turn into paranoia. Stay strong, but remember mercy. Fight when you must, but build peace when you can. Young officers from a dozen species attended his classes. They learned human tactics, human history, and human values. Una finally deactivated the Horizon generators. The field that had won the war was no longer needed. Peace was holding, but she kept the blueprints. She kept the knowledge. Just in case, do you think we'll need it again? Her assistant asked. Maybe, Una said. The galaxy is a big place. There are other threats out there, but we've proven something important. When humanity says never again, we mean it. She looked at the stars through the station window. Somewhere out there were millions of species, some friendly, some hostile, most just trying to survive. Humanity had earned its place among them, not through conquest, but through strength and wisdom in equal measure. The Galactic Council had waged war, expecting an easy victory. They found an enemy that had been preparing for 40 years, an enemy that could fight fiercely but also show mercy, an enemy that refused to submit. But more importantly, the Council had created something they never intended. A new vision for the galaxy. A vision where different species could work together as equals, not as master and subject. The war was over, but the real work was just beginning. On Earth, in a quiet moment, Sohi recorded a message for future generations. We were watched. We were judged. We were attacked. But we were ready. For 40 years, we prepared for this moment. We built weapons that seemed impossible. We united our world. We faced the most powerful force in the galaxy and we survived. But that's not what makes us special. What makes us special is what we did next. We chose to build instead of destroy. We chose cooperation instead of domination. We chose to be better than those who attacked us. The galaxy thought humanity was dangerous. They were right, but not in the way they expected. We're dangerous because we refuse to accept that things have to stay the way they are. We're dangerous because we believe in something better. To future humans reading this, stay vigilant. Stay prepared, but never lose your humanity. Never lose your compassion. That's what truly makes us strong. She ended the recording and smiled. Outside her window, Earth turned slowly in space. A blue jewel among the stars. Home. Humanity had reached the stars. And the galaxy would never be the same.